Good morning, everybody. We are continuing in our saga in the book of Judges, Judges chapter 21, the last book in Judges. And as a precursor to this discussion, it's gusting quite heavily out here, has been for the last couple of days, so if you hear a bunch of wind, I apologize. It's not intentional. So go ahead and open up your Bibles, roughly page 278-ish in the scriptures, to Judges chapter 21. We've got a short chapter today, and then next week we'll start anew in 1 Samuel. So, Judges chapter 21. And the men of Yisrael of Israel had sworn an oath at Mitzpah, saying, "Not one of us shall give his daughter to Benjamin as a wife." Remember, they just got done fighting Benjamin, okay, the tribe of. So the people came to Bethel, Beit means house of, and El is Elohim, the house of Elohim, to Bethel, and sat there until evening before Elohim, and lifted up their voices and wept bitterly, and said, "O Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, why has this come about in Israel, that today there should be one tribe missing in Israel?" Now they're kind of lamenting where they find themselves at this point, because they were literally just at war with Benjamin. I mean, literally 20:35, and Yahweh smote Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed 25,100 men on that day in Benjamin. All these drew the sword. Okay, so they just got done. The remainder of the tribes just got done being in open warfare with Benjamin, and now they're weeping bitterly. So the people came to Bethel and sat there until evening before Elohim, and lifted up their voices and wept bitterly, and said, "O Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, why has this come about in Israel, that today there should be one tribe missing in Israel?" And it came to be on the morrow, the day after, that the people rose early and built a slaughter place there, and brought ascending offerings and peace offerings. And the children of Israel said, "Who is there among all the tribes of Israel who did not come up for the assembly to Yahweh?" For they had made a great oath concerning anyone who had not come up to Yahweh at Mitzpah, saying, "He shall certainly be put to death." And the children of Israel were sorry for Benjamin their brother, and said, "One tribe is cut off from Israel today. What do we do for wives for those who remain, seeing we have sworn by Yahweh not to give them our daughters as wives?" And so there's some dudes remaining in Benjamin, but the remainder of the tribes have decided, we are not going to give our children to Benjamin for wives. So, swore an oath, in fact. However, how do we continue the tribe of Benjamin so that we don't have 11 tribes of Israel, we have 12? So they've kind of find themselves in a conundrum now. They wrote a check with their mouth that their butt isn't necessarily comfortable cashing. Okay? What do we do for wives for those who remain, seeing as we have sworn by Yahweh not to give them our daughters as wives? And they said, which one of the tribes of Israel did not come up to Mitzpah to Yahweh? And see, no one had come to the camp from Jabesh-Gilead to the assembly. For when the people called a roll, see, not one of the inhabitants of Jabesh-Gilead was there. So nobody from that camp had shown up. And the congregation sent out there 12,000 of their bravest men, and commanded them, saying, "Go, and you shall strike the inhabitants of Jabesh-Gilead with the sword, even the women and children." So they had this other oath where they had said, "Hey, everybody's going to gather at Mitzpah." Really, dude? You hadn't said a word until I started doing this, and now you got to go ahead and talk a big game. So they've got two oaths going here with the children of Israel that are kind of at odds with each other. On the one hand, the children of Israel are not going to give their daughters to marry into the tribe of Benjamin. On the other hand, they said anybody who doesn't come up to Mitzpah and show themselves in agreement, in solidarity with this action against Benjamin, they shall surely be put to death. So they concoct this plan. And this plan is, we're going to take 12,000 men, soldiers, and we're going to send them to Jabesh-Gilead with the edge of the sword. Strike the inhabitants with the edge of the sword, even the women and children. And this is what you do. Put under the ban every male and every woman who has known a man by lying with him. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh-Gilead 400 young maidens who had not known a man. And they brought them to the camp at Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Then all the congregation sent and spoke to the children of Benjamin, who were at the rock of Rimmon, and proclaimed peace to them. Raise a white flag, let's parlay, let's talk. And Benjamin turned back at that time, to Shuvah, to turn, repented. And they gave them the women whom they had saved alive from the women of Jabesh-Gilead. But even so, there were not enough for them. So the remaining children of Benjamin end up marrying these 400 maidens, these 400 virgins from Jabesh-Gilead. And the people were sorry for Benjamin, because Yahweh had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the congregation said, "What do we do for wives for those who remain, since the women have been destroyed out of Benjamin?" And they said, "There is an inheritance for the survivors of Benjamin, and no tribe is to be destroyed from Israel. But we are unable to give them wives from our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn an oath, saying, 'Cursed be the one who gives a wife to Benjamin.'" So they said, let me see here. So they said, "See, there is a yearly festival of Yahweh in Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Labonah." And they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, "Go, lie in wait in the vineyards, and watch, and see, when the daughters of Shiloh come out to perform their dances, then you shall come out of the vineyards, and every man catch a wife for himself from the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin." They're going to rendition, they're going to abduct these daughters of Shiloh. "And it shall be, when their fathers or their brothers come to us to complain, that we shall say to them, 'Favor us with them, because we did not take a wife for any of them in battle.'" Hey, give us a little bit of grace here. At least we didn't take them by force. Neither have you given them, making yourselves guilty of your oath. And you didn't give them away. You didn't give them to the children of Benjamin. So they find a fairly underhanded, not quite upright, if not just purely deceptive way of perpetuating the tribe of Benjamin through abduction of the daughters of Shiloh and the eradication of Jabesh-Gilead, leaving only the virgin daughters. "And every man catch a wife for himself from the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be, when their fathers or their brothers come to us to complain, that we shall say to them, 'Favor us with them, because we did not take a wife for any of them in battle, neither have you given them to them, making yourselves guilty of your oath.' And the children of Benjamin did so, and took enough wives for their number from those who danced, whom they caught. Then they went and returned to their inheritance, and they rebuilt the cities and dwelt in them. And the children of Israel went from there at that time, each one to his tribe and clan. And they went from there, each one to his inheritance. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." You got a bunch of people making oaths with their mouths that are not necessarily in line with the Torah. And as a result, they're performing a whole bunch of actions that are bearing bad fruit. Quick story. Hear this. Judges 21. It's the end of Judges. We'll start 1 Samuel next week. But takeaways here. When the children of Israel, all throughout Judges, don't have a righteous man to look upon, they don't act righteously. When they don't have strong leadership guiding them closer to the Father and walking in his ways, they don't stay close to the Father and they don't walk in his ways. And as a result, you get a lot of this human brokenness interaction between one another that causes strife and heartache and is not Torah. It's bad news when we don't have a righteous man to look upon to lead us. That's why Yeshua came to embody the Torah and the prophets. 1 Peter 2:21, that we might walk in his steps and do what he did. It also stands out to me, be careful what oaths you make, because you may have to compromise your morals to keep those oaths. Quick study this week, y'all. Bless y'all. I'll see you next week. Shalom.